Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBinge It. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 2, Episode 23, The Thaw. This episode aired April 29th, 1996. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode? Innocence with the kids that weren't really kids.
No, it was perfect. And I did rather like that episode.
Yeah, it was a good one. Perfect podcast.
I thought it was a good sci-fi concept episode. I love it when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a pretty good sci-fi one. Today's episode is almost like a generic Star Trek episode. Like any of them could have done it.
Yeah, oh yes.
And kind of did. They all sort of did something kind of like this.
You can see the DNA of this episode is very firmly rooted in previous shows.
Mm-hmm.
I was so interested in this one. For a change, I actually went and looked up who the writer was.
Oh, and who was the writer?
According to the wikis, this was written by Joe Menosky, who wrote a ton of other great TNG and DS9 episodes.
No other Voyagers?
Oh, yes, and Voyagers.
Oh. Did he write Move Along Home?
He did not. However, he did write Dramatis Personae.
Oh.
One of my absolute favorites.
Your favorite?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he co-wrote Distant Voices.
Oh, no. Oh, my tennis balls.
I believe the excuse there would be, it was all the other guy.
That's funny. Although it's an alternate reality like this one, which is interesting.
Yes.
Obviously the kind of stories he liked.
Yeah. Well, he didn't just stop there. He also wrote some great episodes of For All Mankind, which is a show I absolutely love.
I think there's a lot of links between Star Trek people in that show.
Yeah.
Well, should we get started?
Absolutely.
In the cold open, Harry is practicing his clarinet, and his neighbor is pounding on the wall telling him to be quiet. He and Tom have some childish conversation about Lieutenant Nicoletti. It's really just a throwaway scene. I'm not even really sure why it's there. Chakotay calls senior officers to the bridge where we have discovered a planet decimated by a major solar flare which was followed by a glacial freeze. The biosphere is recovering and there are signs of a technically advanced race, but Harry finds no evidence of any living people. It does seem a little strange to me that there was an advanced race, but it was only 400,000 people on the whole planet.
Right. Few things here. I made the assumption that this was a colony world of another race.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, there's a really weird, weak explanation here of, there was disturbances or turbulence in the atmosphere. They couldn't escape. They had warp technology.
Yeah.
And they all died.
And also, how could you tell that they didn't escape? You don't know.
Right. It seemed like, I'm not sure what they were trying to go for here, whether it was all 400,000 of them died or...
Well, except for 3 people. Well, 5 people.
Yeah. That's not a lot to restart your civilization.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. We're going to talk about that. Well, regardless of these weird readings and no sign of anyone being alive, we get a mysterious hail from the surface. And we cue the theme song as everybody's like, what?
Did you catch the awesome Janeway maneuver in there?
With Neelix?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. She's got some really excellent facial expressions throughout this entire episode. And the very first one is Neelix. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll just bring it up now that maybe nobody wants to be birthed next to Harry because of his clarinet playing. And you'd think for evolved humans, they'd be a little bit more considerate towards their crew members.
Yeah, that whole scene was weird.
I think if you were being considerate, you would go to the cargo bay, even if the acoustics weren't perfect, for the sake of your crewmates.
Or to the holodeck or something. It's a strange scene.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't really believe you'd be able to hear that clearly. I mean, they make some excuse about it being the vents or something, I don't know. And Tom says something about, the ship wasn't made for soundproofing, it was made for battle. It's just kind of dumb. That whole scene, I just felt like, why did we even do that?
I will say that Tom's comment there about it being built for battle, that did result in me getting sucked down a rabbit hole into reading all about the ships. And apparently, again, from reading the wikis and some other folks' over-analysis, Voyager is designed as a well-armed frontier explorer designed for a multitude of roles and is the epitome of Starfleet's version of walk softly and carry a big stick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's heavily armed, but still a ship designed for exploration. But can also be used for other things. So I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if that's actually fully canon, but I was really interested in reading that. Thanks for the rabbit hole, people. I spent like an hour on that.
Some random website that you were on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, after the credits, we get what we assume is an automated message from a guy named Viorsa. The guy says he was a planner for the coal settlement, and I guess there's a clue that maybe they really were a colony from another planet.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And Voyager sensors activated this message. He says, "You must be aware of the catastrophic disaster that has destroyed our home. A few of us have managed to survive via an artificial hibernation program to end in 15 years from the date of this recording." He says, "We will attempt to rebuild our settlement at that time. Please do nothing to interrupt our timetable."
Not a bad plan.
Seems suspicious that you can recover from a glacial freeze in 15 years. Right?
Yeah, from my understanding of geology, which granted is like high school level, I thought the retreat of glaciers took centuries.
Yeah, I was confused by that. They could have easily said like 5,000 years or something. You know, it didn't have to be 15 years.
It was a temporary freeze.
Anyway, the crew determines that their hibernation should have ended 4 years ago, so something has obviously gone wrong. Harry does some more scans, eventually finding the hibernation pods a few kilometers beneath the surface of the planet, and he finds 3 people alive and 2 dead. And because we are still pretty reckless in Season 2, we beam the whole thing to the cargo bay.
Yes.
Oh, Janeway, you are crazy. Now in the cargo bay, we have 5 pods with 3 hibernating individuals, including the person who sent the message, and also 2 dead bodies. We discover their brains are interconnected in a complex sensory system controlled by a central computer. The individuals who are alive appear to be dreaming and interacting somehow with the computer.
Yep. So they beamed up the pods, the computer, and its power supply.
Mm-hmm.
So it had like a compact power supply. It's all very convenient.
We don't pay a lot of attention to power in Star Trek, honestly. I think we have to accept that power is not a problem in the future.
It's just batteries.
It's just batteries.
Oh, it's like the Stargate SG-1 get out of everything. Oh, it's a 0-point module that looks about the size of a football. Can power an entire city.
Okay, I don't know what that means, but sure. Later, Harry is giving a report, and he says the people in hibernation had access to the atmospheric conditions on the planet and should have been able to get themselves out of hibernation. There's no evidence of a malfunction, and they're very confused as to why the people don't come out. Tom suggests maybe they like it in there. I mean, that's not a bad thought.
I will admit, I'd actually forgotten this episode. And when Tom talked about that, I thought, oh, is it a VR world where they're all like really happy inside and none of them actually want to leave?
And we completely screw everything up and then fly away? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the doctor tells us that the 2 dead individuals died from massive heart failure with evidence in their brain that they experienced extreme fear.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. And of course, we find that we can't just turn off the machine for fear it will cause neural damage for the 3 remaining individuals.
Yeah.
Tuvok suggests that we use the pods and send somebody in to see what's going on in there. And I think we all knew that's exactly what was coming. But, I mean, it's a terrible idea. Don't go in there.
The doctor was the only one who objected to doing this. And I assume it's because he's the only one who's actually read the after-action reports from the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, probably.
You find a load of status pods, don't try and wake the people up.
Do not get involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Never ends well.
So B'Elanna and Harry get sent in, and Janeway says they've got 5 minutes and then they're going to bring them back out. And we all know that that's not what's going to happen.
Did anybody consider maybe this alien computer that they don't fully understand and the technology that they don't fully comprehend has a purge protocol? Alien presence detected. Purging.
It's a virus.
Yeah. I guess as we find out, there's probably easy headcanon and a way out of that. In that the clown wants people in the simulation, so they're not going to have... He's overridden anything like that.
Yeah, but they don't know that yet. They're not there yet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's wildly reckless.
No, it's terrible.
And you're putting your 2 best engineers in this thing?
Yeah, send in a couple of red shirts. See if Neelix wants to go in.
Yeah, just send Neelix in.
Well, the two of them wake up in what looks like a scene out of the original series with a group of people in strange costumes kind of dancing and writhing around.
Completely. It's either that or it's a Cirque du Soleil practice session.
Yeah. Because some are doing like acrobatics and have props. Yep. And they pretty much all have masks on of some kind. Yep. And the location itself is like just a big room or a couple of rooms. Yeah. I mean, if you're building an artificial environment for your brains to live in for years, why would you do this?
Oh, there was a RAM limitation here.
I guess. Well, at first, none of these people respond to Harry, but eventually a person removes a clown mask, revealing the actor Michael McKean in white and gray face paint, like a sort of scary clown.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not exactly menacing with his makeup. No. It's kind of bland and weird, but it's still a little freaky.
As soon as I saw Michael McKean, I knew we were in for a treat because his appearance in The X-Files was just awesome.
Yeah, he's a very familiar actor. I mean, if you're old enough, you recognize him as Lenny from Laverne and Shirley, but he's been in many things. He was in Friends, too.
He was absolutely hilarious in Spinal Tap and the follow-up stuff that he's done.
Yep, he was in that. So this clown tries to get them all to dance and distract them from finding the people that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And the whole scene is bizarre. And eventually, to make it even more bizarre, a pink guillotine is revealed and a big scary guy presses a button, dropping the blade and chopping a piece of wood in half.
This is totally a Cirque du Soleil thing.
It's so strange. And this makes Harry and B'Elanna attempt to run away, which of course does not go well. They're unable to hurt the other characters, even though, B'Elanna's punching everybody, but it doesn't make any difference. And eventually, the others grab Harry and stick his head into the guillotine. But before the executioner can press the button, the three people that we've been looking for appear, and they say, if you kill them, their shipmates will shut down the program. And this actually makes the clown stop and rethink.
My note here says, yay, it's another Torture Harry episode.
Yep. So the guy who sent the message we saw earlier, Viorsa, he's there now, and he tells the clown, we knew it was only a matter of time before someone found us, and who knows what kind of people they are. And we learn that this creepy clown considers this his world.
Yeah.
And he seems to be able to read the minds of the people in the pods, which is a little scary.
That I thought was great. You want to do a good villain? A villain that can literally read your mind and starts quoting what Harry knows and how his technical background and everything, and B'Elanna knowing everything about her. It's a great trait for this villain.
So the clown says if these real people disappear, then the characters that he's created will disappear, and that makes all of the characters behind him pretend to cry. It's very strange. But the point is, he's been created by all of their brains, all of the alien and human now brains. But the point he's trying to make is that he exists because he's been created by all of the brains of the real people in this room. Well, apparently the 5 minutes is up and the escape screen appears. But when B'Elanna goes to use it, the clown says if they leave, he'll kill one of the other people. And the guys are like, yeah, he really will. Turns out the guillotine causes unmanageable stress to the people in the pods and kills them out in the real world.
Right.
But at the same time, he just got done telling us that he can't survive without the people. So how big is that threat?
Yeah, I guess it works as a mutually assured destruction threat.
I guess so, yeah.
I guess that's what he's working on here.
Out in the cargo bay now, they're trying to understand why Harry and B'Elanna do not use the exit subroutine to escape. Their bio readings are indicating abnormal stress. I wonder why. And the crew tries to force them out, but that doesn't work because someone inside the system is stopping it. Yep. And we do see that someone is Harry. In the weird clown world, the clown continues to read Harry's brain. Harry tells the clown that if he lets someone out, then whoever he lets out can share his demands with the crew outside.
Yeah.
The clown's only real demand is that he wants to remain alive, which requires brains. So while the clown is thinking about whether to let someone out, Harry and B'Elanna talk to the three people from the pods. And they say the system was designed to adapt to their thoughts and adjust the environment to their wishes. But unfortunately, all of their fears of survival manifested themselves into this creepy clown.
Oh, wow. I think this is, again, living proof about how all software is crap.
Yeah, we never tested that. We never tested what happened if everybody gets scared.
Yeah, exactly. So the clown immediately jumps to, if you leave, I'll kill one of these people.
Right.
I assume it's because reading Harry's mind, he knows the ethics of Starfleet, and that's what's most likely to work on Harry. Because he also picks out Harry here.
Yeah, I think so, because he makes some comments, not right in this moment, but later about Starfleet.
Yeah.
And, he could only know that from reading Harry or somebody's brain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think if you tried that on B'Elanna, her initial reaction would be, bye.
Do it.
Yeah, go for it.
F around and find out.
Right. Talking about how just sort of maniacal this character is, I really liked it when they did the little dance when Harry thinks the clown is a virus.
Oh, yeah. A virus.
Yeah.
A virus.
That was so move along home, Al Moraine.
Oh,
I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
I watched that and thought, were they poking fun at that episode? I mean, I know I like that episode, but just the way they behaved.
I definitely see parallels between the sort of goofiness of the Al Moraine scene and when they first get there.
Yeah.
For sure. One thing I will say about Michael McKean's performance here is it's relatively understated. Like, I feel like he could have very easily gone way over the top.
Yes.
Sort of like Q in the beginning when he appeared, right? He was a bit over the top. He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He's sort of, I don't know, maybe he's recognized what he's playing is he's playing fear of real people.
Yeah.
And so that would maybe make you not be sort of completely outlandish and crazy. Instead, you'd be kind of understated because you're the manifestation of fear.
Yeah.
So I was actually pretty happy with his performance.
Oh, I would completely agree with that. You could see the temptation to be completely over the top.
Yeah.
While at the same time, they'll do these goofy little scenes like that, which almost kind of underscore his malevolence.
Mm-hmm. We do learn an important thing here, which is that there's a delay before the clown can read what goes through their minds.
Yeah.
It's not instantaneous. And of course, at this moment, you know that that's going to come up again sometime in this episode. The clown ultimately decides to send B'Elanna out, but Harry is going to stay. So B'Elanna extracts herself.
They do a nice little directing touch here. They do these quick cuts where the clown just appears instantly somewhere else.
Right, yeah.
Like Harry and B'Elanna and the others are talking, and suddenly the clown is standing there.
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing, but it's really effective.
Yeah, and they don't overuse it.
No.
Yeah, it's quite subtle. Mm-hmm. Once B'Elanna regains consciousness, we have a meeting in the, I don't know why, nearly pitch black conference room. I mean, I was thinking the lights were out again because it's so dark you can only see half of Tuvok's face when he's talking. It's like, why are we sitting in the dark?
I was honestly expecting Tom to put his hand up and say, can we turn the lights up?
Can we turn the lights up? Yeah. Does somebody have a migraine? What's going on in here? I just thought it was so funny. This show is so weird with how dark it is sometimes.
Well, remember when they did that with one of Dax's conversations where they did it in her quarters? And it was like the lights were off and there was a curio cabinet in the way.
Oh, yeah. I vividly remember that one. It's very early in season 1. Yeah. Well, anyway, the crew is trying to figure out if there's a way for the creepy clown to exist without any actual brains attached. Janeway says, all we have to do is figure out how to negotiate with an emotion. She seems, I would describe her as like weirdly gleeful about this challenge. And she does say, we have to find a way to communicate without sending the clown any more hostages.
She figures out it's fear, but to me that seems like a little bit of a jump, but okay. How do they know that one of the people that they put into the computer wasn't actually a psychopath? And this clown is just a manifestation of that.
Well, because that's what the 3 people from the aliens who are inside, that's what they told Harry and B'Elanna.
Yeah.
They said that he appeared because of their fears of survival.
Yeah, that's what the younger guy is convincing them. He's really a psychopath, and the clown is actually a manifestation of his desires.
Well, except he's not, well, I was going to say he's not that bad, but he is bad. He's killed 2 of them, and there's only 5 total. So yeah, he's pretty bad. Well, I guess it's like we frequently say, we've only got 46 minutes. There's only so much we can do. It's like, we got to get moving.
Yeah, I guess if I was working on episodes, I'd be arguing about that. Look, 2.5 hours is the minimum I can do this in.
Yeah, because we have to have some time to try a few things and it fails, and then we have some big idea at the end and it works, right? So you got to keep moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the clown world, Viorsa says he feels bad that he got Harry into this mess, but Harry's like, stop feeling sorry for yourself. The people on the outside are going to get us out. But the clown is now mad that Harry is thinking about escaping. So the others remind the clown that Harry is new, so of course that's what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
And then for some reason now the clown makes Harry really old. And then he makes Harry a baby which has the Starfleet uniform on, which is quite funny.
Oh, yeah.
And then he puts him back to being Harry, who is trying to calm himself down by repeatedly saying, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
And bears.
So then What?
That's the bit people forget in that line. It's the only thing we have to fear is fear itself and bears.
Well, yeah, that's true. So then the clown straps Harry to a cot, and he starts talking about some scary place that Harry saw when he was a child, where I guess there were sick people, some kind of a colony. I don't know what that story is about. Did we hear about that before?
No, I don't think we've heard that before, and there was some kind of radiation accident.
That might be one of those things that has been brought up before, but it just didn't stick with me because I was confused about that.
I don't remember hearing this.
Well, ultimately, the clown threatens Harry with a scalpel as if he's going to cut him open, but before he could do anything to Harry, the doctor appears, takes the scalpel out of his hand and throws it away. He unstraps Harry and says Captain Janeway has sent him to negotiate.
Okay, first of all, how did Harry, as a young kid, get into an operating theatre?
That's what I'm saying. It's a weird story.
Were they just cutting people open in the street? Was that what was going on?
It was something about a young girl, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess they're just trying to say that the details don't matter. It's just a fear that's in Harry's brain. Something he remembers from being a kid. I mean, you remember weird things.
Yeah, so maybe it's Harry's irrational fears, and that wasn't what was happening. He's just frightened of surgery kind of thing.
Maybe.
Okay. I do think in the run-up to this, where Harry went old, they could have at least thrown some tennis balls in there.
Oh my God, that's true. That's the same thing they did in Distant Voices.
Yeah.
This guy has a type. He likes this.
Yeah, he likes to throw that in.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, the clown is confused by the doctor, saying he's not in the system because he can't sense his brain.
Yeah, and the doctor describes it as, I'm here by a miracle of technology.
Oh, yes. The clown says he can't negotiate with the doctor because he doesn't know what he's thinking, which I really like.
This is peak Doctor here.
Yeah.
He has this sort of like completely flat, almost bored attitude. Like, I'm being made to do this.
Yes. Although, to be fair, that's quite frequently how the doctor is.
Oh, that's true, even when he's doing medical stuff.
Yes. Like if it involves Tom.
Well, he has some great lines as well where he responds with, I have a very trustworthy face.
Oh, yeah, I like that. The doctor says that they will provide the clown with a simulated brain, and then he can release all the hostages. But the clown knows pretty quickly that this won't work because the people on the system know it won't work, so he can read their minds. So he chases the doctor away. And by the way, he reads their minds pretty quickly, so we've already broken our rule a little bit.
And I would wonder about whether, maybe this is part of the problem with the clown. His understanding of things is limited to the people who are actually in the system.
Completely. Yes, completely.
So, off the top of his head, maybe Harry doesn't know a way to make a simulated brain work. The other hostages have no idea about holograms or the technology that Starfleet can use. So from the clown's perspective, scanning their brains, it would be, they don't know how to do this. This is a lie. Whereas the reality could be, like the Moriarty episode. The clown could be perfectly happy in a created universe in the computer and have no idea that it is a created one.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I imagine the other aliens that were in there have thought about this before, right? And if they did truly believe it, I mean, it's an important part of the story that he can read their minds, because if they did believe there was a way for him to survive, then he would have he would have let them go out maybe and do that. But because they probably have thought about it and given up on it by this point, he's just like, nope, that's not going to work.
Yeah, see, he lacks a full understanding.
Right. The doctor tells Harry that he'll be back and he leaves. On the outside, Janeway is getting tired of this nonsense. She's got that look on her face like now she's annoyed.
Oh, totally. The look is, I'm done with this, sort it out.
There's so many times in this episode where I just laughed at the look on her face. And I mean, it gets better towards the end because she eventually does go, forget this guy, I'm going in. Well, Janeway says we have to mount some kind of rescue mission before he harms the hostages. They discuss disconnecting the individuals and seeing what happens, but the doctor says that will likely cause brain damage. And I love here because Janeway says, how much brain damage? Because maybe a little is okay and we can just move on.
Yes.
Oh my God, that was so funny. I like that.
What's the acceptable level here, Janeway?
Oh my gosh.
5, 10%.
Bailana says there's no way for an artificial brain or AI to replace actual brain functions, but somehow we had that Vidian woman in the computer a few weeks ago. I mean, that's the episode we're actually releasing today as we record.
Yeah.
Why can't we just copy somebody's brain in temporarily like we did there?
Oh, that's because they used analog storage for her.
I wish we wouldn't forget our previous episodes so quickly. You know, it is frustrating. At the same time, I think the world that we've built is so complex that's probably almost impossible in Star Trek to do that because of the 800 plus episodes.
It's the eternal problem of overpowering.
Yeah.
And where do you draw the line of what is your super technology?
Yeah.
I can understand having to rebalance things fairly frequently because you write something and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we can't have the Jem'Hadar able to walk through force fields and be invisible and their ships be undetectable. Otherwise, they're superpowered. We've lost.
Yeah, totally.
It's like the eternal argument about, in theory, you could use the transporter to fix everything.
Right, yeah. Like cure every disease.
Right.
And then you have to start having reasons why that doesn't work, and it becomes very complicated very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, the doctor tells them something one of the real people said while he was in the clown world about optronic pathways. And they realize he was trying to send some kind of a message. And B'Elanna says, if we disrupt these pathways, we can start removing the characters piece by piece. And Janeway likes the sound of this, of course, so she's like, do it, because that's how she is. They realize that they will need to distract the clown while trying to make changes to the environment. So they send the doctor back in, and he does distract the clown by talking about giving him a cloaking device to hide him from any other ships that might fly by.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the outside, B'Elanna says she needs about 2 minutes to manually clear out the pathways, which is just her, like, touching little lights and the lights turn off. It's very funny.
Okay, this was awesome because the important thing here is in the future, if you want to reprogram computers, you do it by unplugging wires.
Well, that's always been the Star Trek way. Or little chips, right? You move little chips around and Yeah,
forget learning programming languages or writing scripts, like, just getting into the root directory and typing erase./q to turn on the quiet mode. No, you actually physically unplug the wires and move them around.
I love it. I wonder if it's because that was the sort of level of geekiness of the people when they first created Star Trek, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's completely different now. Everything is software.
Yeah, I like that. I also have to bring up, the clown has a great line as well, where he says, no simulated brains, real brains.
He's a zombie, can only eat real brains.
Michael McKean does such a great job with this character. He manages to walk this line between being comic and menacing.
Yeah. Well, now stuff starts disappearing from the weird world, sort of one piece at a time, while the clown is distracted. But eventually, of course, the clown figures out what's happening, because there's still too much time left in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
He blames Viorsa, the alien guy, and there's a big fight leading to Viorsa's head getting chopped off in the guillotine. Very dramatic. So the plan fails, so they stop.
Harry looks a little disappointed here, but couldn't B'Elanna work on identifying which one of the cables controlled the clown? She's 50% through and killed, like, loads of the background characters or disabled them.
Yeah.
So that means that half the cables remaining must control the clown.
I mean, just pull them all out.
Yeah, and that would only take a minute.
Yeah, she said she's almost done. Like, just keep pulling them.
And it looked like there was enough space there. Can you get, like, another 2 people next to B'Elanna unplugging cables to reduce the time frame?
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking a little bit differently. I was thinking they should have sent in, like, 50 doctors to distract all the weird characters in there, because he helped stop Viorsa's head chopping off the first time. So if there were a whole bunch of them in there, maybe they could just be in a brawl until she's done.
Completely distracting, actually interrupting the program as it plays out.
Yeah, but we give up very quickly. And by the way, he's going to eventually run out of brains. So if he keeps chopping people's heads off.
Right. Thinking about it, if he kills the other 2, that just leaves Harry. And Harry, being Starfleet, he'll know that Janeway's going to make a call. Harry might suffer from brain damage.
Yep.
We need to move on. We're pulling Harry out regardless.
Yep.
So he's painting himself into a corner here if he starts killing them.
Yeah, it's totally true. I guess he doesn't have a ton of cognitive reasoning.
Yeah.
You know, if he's just fear, all decisions are made out of fear.
Yeah.
Are not necessarily the best decisions.
Okay. He's more of a reactionary emotion.
Yes, it seems that way.
Yeah, okay.
Well, bad news. Janeway is now mad. Actually, good news for us, because Mad Janeway is the absolute best Janeway. Yeah, madder. She says there's more to fear than a simple demand to exist. And they talk about people seeking scary things like roller coasters, for example.
Yeah.
But she wonders what fear is seeking. Now the Doctor returns to the clown world, and he says the captain has an ultimatum, which makes the clown laugh. But the Doctor is unfazed. He continues saying, you have 1 minute to agree to her terms, or she will shut down the system and risk damage to the hostages.
Oh, yeah. He goes in strong.
Oh, I really like this scene. At first, the clown thinks he's joking, of course, but as the Doctor just keeps counting down, the clown gets nervous, and he asks, okay, what are her terms? Turns out he can still keep one hostage, but that hostage has to be the captain.
Yep.
This plan works because he's very excited to get access to the captain, and he almost immediately agrees to the terms. Well, he agrees within a minute, because that's the only amount of time that he has.
This is where I think the limit of the time they have in the episode is kind of sad or annoying. I feel they could have had a scene with Tuvok going in there through a hologram and interacting with Fear. I would love to have seen how Tuvok would have reacted in there.
The logic, yeah.
And trying to use logic against him. Tuvok saying he's completely irrational. He's entirely emotional driven.
Well, it would have been a good distraction while Tuvok just keeps saying logical things over and over, and the clown just keeps being irrational. That could have been actually quite funny.
And getting more and more annoyed with him, yeah.
Mm-hmm. On the outside, the captain climbs into a pod, which at this point seems like a god-awful idea. But we don't know what she's up to. In the weird party room, they are tidying up for the captain. They're like dusting and cleaning the floors. I thought that was very funny.
See, it's the little flourishes in this episode, I think, work.
Yeah, no, I understand.
These really bizarre characters having a dusting.
Well, when they hook Janeway up to the system, the clown gets all tingly because the system is beginning to scan her brain. And then the captain appears, and she has that serious Janeway look on her face, which I absolutely love. And she is not there to play. She tells the clown to release the hostages. And when she talks to him about the benefits of fear, he seems to feel seen and appreciated. So this works pretty quickly, and he agrees to release the 3 remaining hostages.
Well, it's a great line. Janeway says, I've learned to trust fear. And the way he turns around, like elated, and says, finally, someone who appreciates me.
Somebody gets me.
Yeah.
Before leaving, Harry very sweetly says, we'll get you out of here, Captain. I promise. But the captain says, thank you, but that won't be necessary. The hostages disappear, and the clown says he can't wait to get to know Janeway, who says she understands it takes a few minutes before he can read her thoughts. And the clown says, yes, and it's an eternity of anticipation. It's so cute, this scene.
Well, the way he does the little wink as well.
Mm-hmm.
McKean really gets this character. I feel it's one of those characters that if you didn't have someone who can, I would describe it as serious comedy acting, it wouldn't work.
Well, and not to disparage any of the other actors, but once Kate Mulgrew appears in the scene, everything kind of shifts between the two of them. It's like now we have a meeting of equals.
Oh, yes, yes.
At this point, she's playing mind games with the clown by saying, you want this to end as much as I do, don't you? And he's like, no, I don't think I do. He says, we make such a beautiful couple, Captain. But then eventually she says, I'm not the captain. She's just a hologram, and the real Janeway is indeed hooked up to the system, but she's not in stasis. So he would sense her brain activity, but she's not in actual jeopardy. Yeah. Not exactly sure how this works, but okay.
We'll just roll with it. We're going with it.
We'll just go with it. We're just going to go with it. The room starts to spin behind him as the hostages all wake up out in the cargo bay, and Tuvok is standing over Janeway, who is conscious.
Yep.
And in the clown world, the hologram Janeway says, fear only exists to be conquered. And the clown says, she tricked me. But the hologram captain says, did she? Or was a part of you actually hoping to be defeated? He says, her lying was very un-Starfleet, but the hologram says,
nice.
Starfleet captains don't give in to fear easily. And the room is going darker and darker, and the clown says,
yep.
I'm afraid. And she says, I know. And then we hear, as everything goes black, we just hear the clown say, drat. The end. One of the greatest endings of any episode.
Honestly, that was absolutely inspired.
It was
that
so
was
good.
So good.
Yes. I mean, I'm not saying that this episode was the greatest episode of Star Trek, but that was one of the greatest endings of any episode. I really loved it. You and I watched it together the first time, and we were both like, oh, that was good.
The absolute perfect end where he just says, drat.
Oh, it was so good.
Yes.
All right. Do you have overanalysis?
Yes. And I'll start with, So Janeway, the hologram Janeway at least, says, fear exists just for the purpose of being conquered. Now, I kind of get the sentiment for this episode, but I'll disagree with that, because being fearful of something, there's also, in some situations, a ridiculously high possibility of it getting you killed.
Well, they do say that earlier in the episode. They talk about the value of fear. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I feel overcoming the fear of a polar bear and marching up to it and punching it on the nose, you've overcome the fear, but it's still a life expectancy shortening bad idea.
Yeah. No, at this point, she's just saying, I won. You lost. Because she's mad.
She's rather referring to this personification of fear rather than a general fear. You should just overcome all fears.
Well, kind of the way I looked at it was, this is how she decided to sort of negotiate with fear or talk to fear, which is to just say, you are pointless. My whole purpose in life is to get rid of fear.
Yeah.
And now you're gone. You know what I mean? I just feel like that was her tactic.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that she thought that was true, that fear didn't have value. I think that was just her tactic to sort of be like, see, and now don't you really just, you want to go away, right?
So more of a overcoming irrational fears than really overcoming fear as a warning emotion that this is a really bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, all of the meat kind of this episode is in that last little speech by her, I would say. And she's pretty much saying Starfleet captains don't operate out of fear. And here I am to tell you, this is the end of this problem.
Yes, that's very much how I would see captains even reaching that point. Right. You can't be fearful.
Yeah.
Next thing. Now that is an amazing computer system that can scan, interpret, and understand the brains of other races.
Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah, what if the species were like the Tamarins in Damok? Would they even understand how to communicate?
Yeah.
The clown's standing there going, I don't understand a word you're saying. What about this Tanaka thing?
Yeah, again, that's not what this episode's about.
So this is real overanalyzing.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing I was thinking about was, so it kills them by causing the people in stasis to experience excessive stress and die.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't the doc flood their bodies with sedatives?
Yeah.
Like fully put them to sleep, virtually paralyze them? Or as an alternative, get them like really, really high.
Yeah, I thought about that. There were a few times in this episode where they were trying to make it clear that they couldn't really do anything to interrupt the brain patterns for some reason, right? Like the fact that it took them 10 to 15 minutes to wake up was a thing that they kept insisting on, right? That was the reason why we couldn't do whatever the normal thing was. But yeah, you would think you could just sedate them and then turn the program off or something.
Yeah, so they're actually passed out while you ran through the wake them up process.
Yeah. And also, you would hope that, too, if their brains weren't functioning, that the clown would shut down. Maybe that's what they should have done.
Oh, that's a really interesting question there. If they actually are fully asleep and you manage to shut down most of their brain activity, will the clown even work?
Yeah, because if you actually knock them out like you were anesthetizing them for surgery, it's different. Right. You're not dreaming.
Yeah.
At least that's been my experience with surgery.
So that's exactly what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing, and we touched on this at the beginning, I don't think 2 or 3 people, well, I don't even think if all 5 of them survived, that's really enough to restart your colony of 400,000 people.
You don't think that's enough people to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my first note in my overanalysis is, what good are these 2 people now who are left? What are we doing with them? Maybe if you were right that it was actually a settlement from somewhere else, maybe they take them back to their original people and they can restart the settlement. But yeah, you can't just send 2 people back out and go, There you go, recreate all your people. Meanwhile, these 2 are so traumatized from the last 4 years of their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think a more satisfying headcanon for me would be the majority of the population evacuated. And these were left behind to, maybe they have very low warp technology so that it takes them a long time to go back to the home planet. So why they're left there is once things improve, they wake up and signal the home planet, hey, everything's good, come on back. And it'll take those people 5 years or however long to get back to the world and start repopulating that colony. Because otherwise, if the Ice Age lasted longer, it would be a real bummer if you spent 10 years flying there and discovered that, the planet's still uninhabitable.
I wondered if maybe most of the people did evacuate and that they just hadn't come back yet.
Precisely.
Because it doesn't necessarily make sense that only 5 people would have found a way to put themselves in stasis and nobody else. Yeah. But at the same time, we didn't want a bunch of different programs. Yeah. We couldn't deal with a whole bunch of this exact same situation. So,
thinking about that also brings up just the trauma of you're the last 5 survivors of 400,000 people.
Yeah. Oh, it's so traumatizing. Everybody you know got killed, and now you're stuck with this crazy clown for 4 years, or however long that thing has existed.
I'm thinking your mental health won't be terribly good after this,
No, you got some issues, for sure.
Next thing, I really hope they file a bug report over this software. I think there are some real issues.
Yeah, we got some definite issues.
They file a report with their home world and discover that, we discontinued that. It killed so many people.
Yeah, that's the same software we use for our self-driving cars. They all crashed.
Yeah, right after they went on a murder spree.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so this might also be an allegory warning you about software.
Yeah, it's an early version of AI going wrong.
Yeah. And I think my final point is...
Yeah.
And I think we addressed this. The clown didn't even want to explore alternatives for his survival.
No.
Like he'd rather fade out to nothing than compromise. So, I think your comment earlier that he's just an emotional response.
Yeah.
That doesn't really have logic.
Exactly.
Or really a survival instinct to a great extent.
I mean, that's the point, is out of fear, you generally just make a runaway response, right? You don't necessarily make your best decisions when you are the most afraid.
Yeah.
So there's very little logic. All he seemed to want to do was survive until Janeway convinced him he just wanted to be dead, which is amazing.
Drat.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, I think looking at it like that, the character makes a lot of sense then.
Yeah.
And with that wraps up my overanalysis. Over to you.
Well, I only had 2 things, and we already talked about what did we do with these poor 2 people? Did we just leave them on the planet? Well, good luck.
Good luck, people.
Yeah, but we already talked about that. And then my other question was, why didn't we send the doctor in first? There's people stuck in there. What? Just send something in first to look around, and don't put your people in the pods and hook them up. Oh my God.
Seeing as how quickly they got that to work.
Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody came out with that idea of, can we get into the computer some other way, rather than, we're sending in our 2 best engineers. Good luck, kids.
Let's just send in these 2 great people and see what happens. I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll pull you out in 5 minutes.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, because you definitely think, find another way to see what's going on in there without putting some people at risk, right?
Just rearrange some of the wires.
Move the little chips around.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything about women in the future, because women are just doing their jobs. Nothing to say there. And in Janeway's leadership corner, I would only say, we are too reckless. We just beam those people up without knowing anything. And then we send 2 of our best crew members in without knowing what the heck was going on. But when Janeway did come in, she took care of business. I mean, it's just like my favorite Janeway when she's like that.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. Even though it was a hologram.
Yeah.
We talked about this off air, but was this the first hologram Janeway before Prodigy? Although we've seen a holographic version already in this show of Janeway.
Well, I would make the argument that the Doctor created the hologram Janeway when he was going through his
crisis.
His crisis, yeah. He created her. So it was a side effect, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas this was a deliberately crafted hologram Janeway. So I'm going to go with, this is the first real hologram Janeway that they intended to build and programmed to behave exactly like the real Janeway.
And it was all the best things about Janeway, except the only thing that was missing was the tank top and messing up her hair.
And they save this program and download it later in Prodigy.
They should. Well, they definitely should.
It's the base program they use for the Prodigy hologram. There's some absolute headcanon with no supporting evidence.
Well, let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Absolute thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. This is a great episode. Visually, the color palette used in this episode is just radical. It's absolutely outstanding. It's a beautiful episode to watch. There's lots of nice little directing touches. The DNA of this episode, you can really trace it back to other episodes within Star Trek. Dramatis Persona,
Oh, yeah.
Move Along Home, almost a stylistic nod back to the original series. It's a great, fun episode in those aspects, and I think Michael McKean, he makes a great villain, thoroughly enjoyable, great resolution, lots of great Janeway, and equally as important, we got to pick on Harry again. If you've got to torture someone, it's going to be Harry. So what can I say? Thumbs up. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good episode. I don't know if it's great. I think the ending is great.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, like you mentioned, it's really an old school Star Trek episode where we tell it in a very confined space. It's just this one room where this thing happens, right? And it's not complicated. There's no scenery, really. We just have some things hanging on the wall and we have some wild costumes. And it's like weird and it's simple, which, you know, a lot of the original series episodes were like that.
Yeah.
But it gives us the thing that we're really looking for in Star Trek, which is that the captain comes at the end, speaks for all of us, just to show us what we can really be. We can all conquer fear and we win, right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
a very Star Trek thing. And I thought, yes, Michael McKean is very good because it could have easily just gone clownish, not
Right.
to be punny, but he didn't do that. He was a little goofy, which, you know, that's pretty normal for an episode like this in Star Trek.
Yeah.
But Kate Mulgrew is amazing in this episode, at the very end especially. So I think thumbs up. Very cool episode. I enjoyed it.
Excellent. Well, with Janeway, I think there's a funny thing if you can draw this line going up from I'm fine through to I'm extremely annoyed and done with this.
I just love it when she's done.
And through the
Yeah.
whole episode, you can see she's following that progression. And at the end, you get that bit you love of it's the I'm the fully annoyed Janeway now.
Yeah. And just the way it ended with drat and it went to black. Incredible.
Yes, there was a lot of nice directing choices in here. It was very cleanly put together.
Yeah.
Something else I'm going to bring up briefly is it is fun coming back and watching these episodes and remembering things that when you watch just favorite episodes, you might not get the themes that are coming through. And one that I love here is the pick on Harry. To a large extent, I've forgotten that Harry was you're going to pick someone you're going to do something nasty to.
It's Harry. Yeah. He's the Miles for sure.
Yeah. And I think it works as well with Harry. He's such a true believer.
Yeah, and that's why it works, because he is sort of painted in these early days as the innocent.
Yeah.
And the person who embodies all of Starfleet.
Right.
Because he's not a Maquis, and he wasn't grizzled in the beginning because he was basically just out of the academy. And so it makes a lot of sense. We talked quite a bit about some of the treatments of Miles in Deep Space Nine because you were concerned it was maybe a stereotype of him because he's Irish. Right?
The laboring Irishman.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a little bit different. This is just a young, innocent guy who's just out of the academy. And so I think at least we sort of set that aside. And we definitely so far have picked him as the target for many things.
Yeah.
And possibly because a lot of the stuff that they do wouldn't work on the other characters. It wouldn't make as much sense.
Yeah.
Like B'Elanna in that same situation would react differently.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Or Tuvok or Chakotay. It makes sense for it to be Harry.
Oh, I agree. I would love to see B'Elanna because I think she would have been, okay, well, they're all dead. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know these guys. Like Dal and Prodigy. Anybody know these guys? Nope.
Yeah, we good. I'd say there's definitely the risk of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. That wraps up season 2, episode 23. I have good news. Next week, another infamous episode of Voyager, Tuvix, is coming.
Yes.
Join us next week for Tuvix, episode 24. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at rebingeit@gmail.com. You can also find us on Threads, Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky, all at ReBingeIt. And you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.